Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Blade. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my content, and welcome to a game I don't think I've played on channel, seeing as OBS required me to set up a new game capture for this game. I think it's safe to say I haven't done this one on YouTube. So this is called Suzerain, and for whatever reason the game seems to have lost all of my save files. So it has recently gotten a DLC for like being able to play as a brand new country that I believe is you use your old save file to then play off of. I don't have any save files right now, so I guess I'm just going to be starting from the beginning once again. I've already played this game 3 or 4 times myself, so this is going to be my first time doing it for you guys out there in the world of YouTube. So let's just jump in and start this up, shall we? A new game name. How about we'll just go with YouTube. Done. The Republic of Swordland. We're going to be playing as Mr. Anton Reigns here. That's kind of the play on the Suzerain. Is Anton Reign, kind of using his last name combined with Suzerain, which is the overlord of a vassal state. So kind of combining those two words together to come up with the name of the game. Anyway, we're gonna start the story. This is a very story-focused game. You're gonna have decision making and story, and that's pretty much how you sum up this game. You are my enslavement, my freedom, you're my flesh. This part isn't really important. Alright, here's where we're starting to get to the important stuff. In 1908, the Kingdom of Swordland, you opened your eyes to this world. You came from a wealthy family in the city of Lakovin, a middle-income family in the city of Holsword, or an impoverished family in the city of Dire. Huh. You know, in real life, I kind of come from both. As I don't want to give you too much about, let's just do it generalized. So one side of my family was lower class, I suppose, low income, and the other side of my family was certainly upper middle class. And so I've seen the reality of the world from both perspectives. I think I spent most of my time growing up probably in more of a lower, more impoverished family, so I'm going to go with that. An impoverished family in the city of Dire. Your parents named you Anton. As the only child of a farmer, you spent your childhood among wheat fields. Life was not easy. You were too poor to afford a good education. The Reign family was caring regardless of the economic dire situation. Your parents always did their best to support you. The years passed. During a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced the historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Swordland was born. You did not fully understand. You were happy that you had the day off, or you were somewhat worried. It's 1923. I was born in 1908. So this would put me at what? 15? 15, you're not so much worried about politics. I think I'm happy that I had the day off. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. Even though your family was poor, the public education system made it possible to go to university. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. You chose law, economics, or history. Boy, these are tough choices. So history, I love history. I'm a big history buff. Was one of my favorite classes in school, if I have to be honest. However, you don't go to college for what you like. You go to college because you're attempting to make money. Economics would certainly help me in that regard. So I'm probably looking at this as how am I going to improve my future, not what subject matter do I like. So I'm probably not going to go to the history, even though I enjoy history. Law sounds like something that would lead to the most amount of opportunity. Economics would probably lead to opportunity too, but it sounds boring. Nah, law sounds far more interesting and will also get me somewhere. So law it is. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Whiskey. He was a well-known diplomat from the foreign ministry and the son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained how the Supreme Court is obstructing justice in Swordland. He stated that law should be applied fairly and that even the members of the Supreme Court are subject to the same laws. You agree in principle. You question what you're being taught. Your only concerns was passing the exam. Nah, at this point, this is college. At this point, you should be a free thinker, and you should start to question what the other teacher, who's also an adult, you're both adults there. Is the teacher teaching you the topic matter, or is he trying to indoctrinate you or convince you to believe some ideology? Now, certainly your only concern was passing the exam. Passing the exam certainly should probably be on the top of your mind. However, this guy, he's talking about the Supreme Court is obstructing justice in Swordland. He's making a very politicized statement inside of a classroom, which he probably shouldn't be doing, right? You should be sticking to the topic matter. However, the topic is about law and the Supreme Court. It's somewhat relevant, right? Even though it's probably not kosher to introduce your politics into this. So that's going to immediately send off red flags in my mind that this guy is talking about politics in the middle of his lecture. So I'm going to start to question what I'm being taught because I don't know if I can trust this guy. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering in protest along with your friend Peter Vector. You decided to... Soldiers enter the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. Okay, this is not normal behavior. Military arresting teachers. However, at the same time, I just had a teacher who was attempting to convince me to be part of an ideology in the last topic matter. So we're in a society in this game that's actually a lot like the US is right now, sadly. Protest with the students. Avoid any confrontation. am I going to stand up for these teachers who are being arrested by soldiers for some reason that I don't know. I don't know why they're being arrested. I don't know why they're being detained. I don't know what's going on. The game hasn't given me enough. This backstory hasn't given me enough knowledge to understand why it's happening. So I think in this point, even if my best friend Peter Vectorn is jumping in to protest, I'm going to stand back and I'm going to avoid any confrontation at this point. You heard a loud announcement that echoed throughout the campus. General Lunderin declared martial law. And in order to restore the administration, please stand back and disperse to your rooms. You quickly made your way toward the dormitory, avoiding the scene. You did exactly as they said. Okay. As you entered the room, you heard screams coming from outside. No, I'm not going to bury myself under the sheets. I'm going to try to go and see what these screams are about. I want to know. But the soldiers locked the doors. It was a gloomy year. The arrested teachers were replaced by those that promoted conformism to the state. Wholesword turned a blind eye to the things that were happening. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join a human rights group, a student council, a political debate group. Human rights group? No, definitely not. A student council? How is that going to help? A political debate group? Well, if you're upset about politics, then maybe debating the politics would make the most sense. So, how about a political debate group? The dozens of debates helped you hone your oratory skill, while also helping you to grow your network. Even though the discussions between different groups often became heated, you all grew from sharing ideas. In one of the meetings, Peter Vectorn introduced you to a classmate of his, Monica. You were immediately attracted to her intelligence, her beauty, or her diligence. Well, you know, I've known some diligent people, and I wouldn't quite say that diligence was something that I found myself eagerly and totally attracted to. Intelligence, however, there's something to be said about a beautiful mind. But let's be real. The first thing you look at is her breasts, her ass, and her face. It's her beauty. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swordish League of Women, an organization campaigning for women's rights. You? Well, this is 1927, so if I lived in 1927, I'd probably be all for feminism and women's rights. That's not to say, like, for today, women are equal. I mean, feminists at this point are they're just flipping the script on men. They're wanting to become the new they're wanting to put us under their boot at this point. It's gotten out of hand. The script has been flipped. But in 1927, probably I would have supported her. The politically charged environment led you to join the Red Youth, join the Young Swords, or stay away from any political organizations. Okay, so socialists. What are socialists? They're the extreme left-leaning political party. Definitely not. If I have to compare this game to what's going on in real life, I'm a MAGA Republican. So if I'm going to take people's opinion in our current environment, we're the extremist. We're the nationalist extremists. So I guess I'm a young sword. The radio relayed that the communist general Ricard surrounded Lutheran and his troops demanding their surrender. They refused, and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Swordland plunged into chaos. Ricard's sudden attack caused even more bloodshed in the country. He seemed different compared to fascist Lutheran. In your opinion, however, he was more of the same. So you participated in a protest march. You were chanting. Okay, Ricard's sudden attack caused even more bloodshed in the country. He seemed different compared to the fascist Lutheran. In your opinion, however, he was more of the same. So you participated in a protest march. You were chanting, "One nation, one system, one people. End the chaos, we want stability. United we stand, divided we fall." Yeah, again, if I compare this to what we're going through currently in the U.S., I don't think I'm thinking united we stand, divided we fall, because at this point, I kind of wish that that California, Oregon, and Washington would just fall into the ocean. I really have no desire to unite with them. End the chaos, we want stability. That I could get behind. One nation, one system, one people. I don't know. At this point, I'd be happy if we just divorced and went about our different ways. So I'm going to go with end the chaos, we want stability. You were marching against Ricard. The students and soldiers against Lutherans' coup gathered a few hundred meters away. Many socialists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. You were marching against Ricard. The students and soldiers against Lutherans' coup gathered a few hundred meters away. Many socialists were among them. You knew something was going to happen. I think it's time to exit stage left. You left. The clashes escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos had to end. The charismatic Colonel Tarquin Sol orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital, where the Lutheranist and Ricardist forces were battling each other. He defeated both, ending the war. A new constitution was written, and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the colonel as a savior. He formed the United Swordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever single-party election. Yeah, okay, so here we are. We're in a society where somebody comes along and ends the chaos. That person's going to be popular, and you're probably going to like them. So I could see that maybe I probably voted for the United Swordland Party. The United Swordland Party won the election by a large majority. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. The devastating civil war from neighboring Whelan quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The distinguished Major Iosif Lancia ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of Gummarin Outpost. You could see your breath. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source, so the squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. You escorted them back or let them slip through. Now, a border exists for a reason, and I'm evidently defending the border. I'm escorting them back. The refugees were in despair when they realized that you were taking them back to the border. Screams and protest ensued. As they were restrained, you delivered them to the border guards. After several months of military service, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. You and Monica decided to share your lives together after receiving the blessing of her parents. A ceremony was held in Holsort. During the same year, you were offered a high-paying job within the governing United Swordsland Party. It was important to start your career on a good foot, so you accepted it. Working for the ruling party was the easiest path to power. The financial compensation was too great to pass up. It was the best opportunity to change the country for the better. Okay, so yeah, I'm not about the power, and I'm not about the money. If I'm going to be anything, it's because it's the best way for me to be able to make a change for the good. So this is the way we're going. You became the legal assistant to one of the more experienced members of Assembly. You worked long and hard, going through hundreds of pages of legal documents late into the night. You were climbing the ladder. Tarquin Sol gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the Civil War and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institutions and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a citizen-funded bills program to revitalize the economy, a social labor initiative to help rebuild the impoverished society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. The first multi-party elections in the history of Swordsland were held. President Tarquin Sol was elected once more. The ongoing legal battle between the Justice Ministry and the Supreme Court put you under a lot of stress, but your significant contribution to the legal case triggered an invitation to meet President Tarquin Sol himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of the Assembly. You accepted right away. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought on Peter Vector as your right-hand man. The birth of your son, Frank, provided a brief moment of joy and relief. You sacrificed work to spend time with your family, sacrificed family time to improve your position in the party. My son was just born. I'm sadly going to sacrifice work to spend time with my newly born son. During the absence, Peter Vectorn found trustworthy contacts and strengthened your position in the party. At the same time, President Sol increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the USP. The cracks began to show. President Sol barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the next year, the Swordish people grew increasingly discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Economic growth was slowing down. Meanwhile, calls for the United Swordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. What am I going to do here? Look, it's great to support President Sol. He kind of saved our country from chaos. At the same time, a country has to move forward and develop. We can't stagnate. However, I don't think I would oppose him. So, I'm going to stand off to the side. I'm going to watch from the sidelines. The contender for party leadership was Ould Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate with a growing follower base within the party. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Sol was meeting party members one by one, and he approached me. The President offered you a position of Minister of Justice and Law in the next government if you backed him in the upcoming vote. Yeah, I'm missing context here. Do I think Tarquin Sol has been doing a good job at this point? Or not? I don't know how much I'm upset with him or not upset with him. Not enough information here. However, I don't want to be in somebody's pocket. If I accept, then I'm basically saying that I approve of his policies. But I don't know if I approve of his policies. And if I reject, what's going to happen? I don't know. You know, I'm not sure. Right, the president offered you a position in the minute. No, I reject the it's bribery. It feels like bribery to me. The Congress is nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Swordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. The voting for the party leadership began. Alright, even though I didn't take his bribe, I'm going to still support him, as I'm not sure this guy is a better option. Unfortunately, Tarquin Sol lost the leadership vote to Ould Alfonso by a small margin. During the Congress, Sol announced he would retire from politics at the end of his term and appointed Alfonso as vice president. The system he had established were to stay much longer. His achievements wouldn't be forgotten. I'm happy that Sol was finally leaving. I think he did great things, but it was time for him to step down and let the wheels of government continue to turn. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Deanna. She motivated you during a tumultuous period in the party. As the VP and leader of the USP, the United Swordland Party, Ewald Alfonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the United Swordland Party, such as the State Educators Corps and the Swordish State Corporation bills. The general elections were approaching. The United Swordland Party was under new leadership. You joined the party effort and campaigned for him. Did your best not to help him. As the VP, the leader of the United Swordland Party, Ewald Alfonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the USP, such as the State Educators Corps and the Swordish State Corporation bills. I don't know what those do. Again, I want more information. Until I know that getting rid of those things is a good thing, I'm going to do my best not to help him. During the general election, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular figure, Franz Richter. But the damage had been done. The new economic policies and the extensive privatization programs proposed by Ewald Alfonso secured an election victory for the United Swordland Party. Over the following years, the next economic policies and extensive privatization programs proposed. Okay, I can get behind privatization programs. Did your best in order to make Swordland a better place. Tried all that was necessary to climb the ladder. Dedicated yourself to the party and its success. Now, I did myself to make Swordland a better place. In government and law and advancements in liberal democratic values. However, due to infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions, and fast-track privatizations, it was followed by a severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. You thought that your party could not survive another crisis, were worried about the economic recession, worried that your reputation would be tarnished along with Alfonso. No, I'm worried about the economic recession. I don't give a crap about my reputation. With Peter's help, your presence in the USP grew. The two of you worked long nights together. He flipped opponents to your side. You became the face of a new wing of the party. Step by step, and with adequate planning, your wing took over the leadership as President Alfonso lost control of the country. The moment to make a move had come. You blamed Alfonso for the crisis on television, bribed and extorted Alfonso's inner circle, advised Alfonso to step down. I advised him to step down. He listened to your advice. Alfonso conceded the leadership struggle, and the party eventually voted you in because of your indisputable influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. You promised to enact democratic reforms, or preserve national values. You know, both are good. It sounds like that the state of our country is basically, we're kind of transitioning from what was a military autocracy to something more democratic, and we're going through some trying times. I think democratic reforms fit with where we are in the point of this story. We're not using the whole democratic reform cudgel like it's being used in the United States today. So we'll go this path. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. A solid and transparent democracy awaits us, brothers and sisters. A new constitution and a new age is upon us. The broadcast ended. On election day, millions went out to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. Chapter 1. President Reign. I've been elected. Oh wait, we can customize. I don't remember this being a thing. I don't know why they're calling these things political terms. How does that become a strategist? How is this a theorist? I like that one. The tire, huh? This is the default. Glasses. You know what? We gotta sport the pipe. Yep. Okay. Finish. Alright, election campaign promises. As Anton Reign, you have made consequential promises to the people of Sorland to gain their vote in the 1953 election campaign. Consider these commitments carefully. Economic direction. After the recent market reforms and the recession, the country finds itself stuck between two different economic systems, with indecision and turbulence causing the population to demand a direction. Planned economy or market economy? I'm sorry, but market economy. No question here, no choice here. Has to be market economy. Diplomatic leanings. The global rivalries between the capitalist Arcadia in the west and the monarchy of Rumsburg in the north and the communist United Cantana in the east are intensifying. Swordland has the potential to align with others or lean towards neutrality. You know, no country should go it alone. We're going to align with the other capitalists in the West. Immigration policy. In the last 5 years, Bloodish, Wessex, and Anglian immigrants flocked to Swordland due to relaxed immigration laws enacted by former President Ould Alfonso. As a result, these tensions are causing requests for a political solution. We're going to toughen immigration laws. As Anton Rain, you have made consequential promises to the people of Swordland to gain their votes in the 1953 election campaign. Consider these commitments carefully. Term focus education. The once praised public education system of the nation has suffered significant setbacks in the last decade. The lack of new schools, high student-to-teacher ratios, low teacher salaries, or even lack of classroom equipment in certain parts of the country causes a massive divergence in public education systems. Alright. Defense. The Swedish Armed Forces were the nation's most funded branch until Alfonso's government reduced the defense budget significantly. With the increase of saber-rattling threats looming in the north by Rumsburg and the growing presence of the superpowers in the region, the critical deterrence of the SAF matters more than ever. Law enforcement. The recent culminating political tensions between the different youth groups and socio-economic pressures between multiple classes of society is increasing the issue of the law and enforcement systems. Police need help keeping up with increased crime rates. Simultaneously, judges and courts deal with an enormous growing backlog of legal cases. Health. Swordland's health system and healthcare quality have stagnated due to the administrative efficiencies, increased service demands, and increasing divide in service quality between urban and rural hospitals. The average life expectancy has dropped significantly, with issues such as maternity death issues and outbreaks. You know, all of these are valuable areas. It's hard to ignore education, but I think ultimately in a country, we were a military, we're trying to get away from military rule, if you will. So I don't think focusing in defense is such a good idea considering our country's background. It's not like we're the United States and we have this huge overbloated defense industry where we need to start cutting back on the defense industry to actually do something about our spiraling out of control national debt. That's not the situation here. We were yeah, I want to get away from defense. We don't necessarily need to fund them right now. From what it sounds like, we had a lot of people coming in that weren't really cohesively part of our culture from different countries around the area, thanks to my predecessor. And while education is important, I think the most important thing in a country needs to be stability. And in order for there to be education that works, you need to be in a country that's safe and stable. And so if we're having problems here, then that's probably our worst thing. I mean, health sucks, but I think we're going to go with law enforcement. Yes. 2 weeks have passed since you won the election. And now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th president of Swordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rain. The die was cast. There my story began. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Deanna, were next to Monica, my wife. Her eyes were glimmering with pride. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my government. Wait, what? No, I didn't. Did I? I saw my previous rival and former president, Ewald Alfonso, who gave me a slight nod. Tarquin's soul was also invited, but as expected, he didn't leave his island retreat. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orso Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. Orso Hawker, the time for the oath has come. Well, let's start. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Swordland, and to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend. And to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Swordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. Thank you. My fellow swords. The crowd looked very eager to listen to me. Change and hope. You, the people, have chosen together. We will bring prosperity and reform to our nation. It is a time of hope. It is a time of change. If we stand together, we prevail. In the past, there have been times of survival, times of conflict, and economic hardship too. But whenever we stood together, we prevailed. These are very promising things, if you will. I'm not sure I'm ready to make such bold commitments here in this speech. The future awaits us. It's time to turn our faces to the west. Our capacity as a nation has never been greater. Hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden, all at the same time. Raise fist, wave, or enjoy the moment. Let's raise the fist. I took a long look at the people of Swordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the Presidential Guard came by to notify me that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadilla with the flags of Swordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Sergei Wolkner. Hello, Mr. President. I still felt euphoric from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you'll allow me to introduce myself, I'm Sergei, your new driver. It's nice to meet you, Sergei. It's an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door. Gesturing inside, I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Sergei proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. As minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thought again. Barely paying attention to what he was saying, he suddenly gestured out the window. Isn't it a beauty? The Maroon Palace. He was right. Sunlight glinted off of the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was bright that I had to look away. It was so bright that I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded of my duty to this nation. No. It's building, though. Though I don't want to say that. Symbols are important. We all owe a great debt to the men who led the country from here. Yeah, okay. Their service will not be forgotten. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Sergei got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. A Morgana Westcor. He referred to a famous Swordish phrase from the time of the Revolution, A Morgana Westcor, Vector Insiste, which meant morning will come, victory is close. Vector Insiste. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. And here we are in the game. So we will have, I have 1 personal wealth, I have 8 government budget, and then we will have these things that pop up. And then there's news over here. Campaign bill. Fair representation in the Assembly. A long-stalled campaign bill has once again taken center stage in the Grand National Assembly. The bill, first proposed during the Alfonso presidency, had been put on hold due to the 1953 election, but has now been resurrected under President Anton Rein. The proposed amendments ensure a more proportional allocation of public funds and more accurately reflecting a party's influence within the legislative body. Okay, Rein spoke of change and hope. President Anton Rein has been sworn into the da-da-da. In his inauguration, Rein spoke about change and hope, bringing focus on reforms. Together, we will bring prosperity and reform our nation. It's a time of hope. It's a time of change, said the new president before he went on to start his first day in the Maroon Palace. Swordland today. President Anton Rein, the new justice, has been sworn into office by Chief Justice Orso Hawker, another great win for the USP, and Anton Rein, who managed to get 37% of the general vote. 37% is not exactly a mandate. The first congratulations came from Casaro Kibiner of the National Front Party, which finished 3rd in the electoral race and entered the assembly. The runner-up of the general vote, the PFJP didn't concede until the last minute, but the results were clear since several hours in. Thousands of supporters have gathered in the streets of Dare, chanting campaign slogans, waving flags, and displaying USP party banners to display unwavering support to the newly elected president. The public mood is very positive in the city. From all accounts on the ground, the city is celebrating that a Dare-born president with humble roots is now sitting in the Maroon Palace. Economist. End Soul-onomics. The new era began for Swordland, and it holds many economic questions that will need to be answered by President Rain. Our top economic analyst, with consultation from the National Business Council, has released a comprehensive report on the performance of the past 20 years. A certain section of the report stands out. The last 2 4-year plans of the planned doctrine created a budget deficit and a clear reduction of the industrial production output. This was specifically due to mismanagement and inefficient bureaucracy. The year-on-year growth, budget balance, and production index values indicate that the 2 most productive consequentive years have been when the privatization program of Avanzo began in 1949. Our editorial team, with the help of experts like Mikhail Avon and Edith Agnock, have come to the conclusion that the recession was not actually caused by Alfonsonomics, but by the drastic obstructions of the state executives hindering the plan. President Rain must take the advice of planned economy proponents around him with a pinch of salt. Otherwise, he could find himself in the same spot of Tarquin Sol in the mid-40s. Restructure the infrastructure? After the recent successful mega infrastructure project from the United Quintana and Vogsland, the world is warming up to the idea of a source of growth and employment. But is there any truth to this success? Our investment analysis indicates that the infrastructure investments can be fruitful in the short term, but even more so in the long term, especially if they focus on linking economic nodes that business logistics depend on. This is, however, the first step. The crux of the matter is diversification of investment, where the government supports employment and growth. It is key to help businesses with government contracts, tax breaks, and political support in order to create self-sufficient and dynamic economy. The government's role in Swordland should be to integrate to the world economy and reap the benefits of global trade. Economic growth and income inequality in this country won't be fixed otherwise. The Lacobin Times. The new assembly began duty. President Anton Rain has been elected 4th president of Swordland and 7th in the 7th Swordish election. The United Swordland Party has won the election on Sunday with just over 37% of the vote, while Franz Richter, the leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, could gain just over 20%. Kisaro Kibner, the head of the right-wing National Front Party, is in 3rd place with just over 11%. The Communist Party of Swordland and the Workers' Party of Bloodia both won just 10% of the vote, failing to pass the 10% election threshold. The new term begins with the opposition of PFJP and NFP under the USP government. The unrepresentative votes below the threshold result in the USP taking 52% of the seats in the Grand National Assembly, giving them the lawmaking power. The new seat number have been finalized as follows: USP 130, PFJP 70, NFP 40, and Independents 10. Radical. Another USP president. How many times will people fall for the same trap? We've seen this before with Colonel Saul, who supposedly saved his country and brought stability in times of chaos. His stability, however, meant a life of oppression. Any opposing voices were silenced and many were prosecuted. Next was Alfonso, who was elected as the liberal reformer to bring change to the USP and Swordland. Seeing his unfortunate inability, his own cabinet resigned. As the 3rd USP candidate becomes president, it's high time to realize that real change won't come from their party. You want to make a bet? And nothing in the geopolitical. Okay, so we're up to date on the news and what the people are thinking around the country. So what do we got going on over here? Read the report, lack of investment. The mayor of Avori, Eric Neal, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Avori, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Avori's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Agnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to data published by the National Business Council, around 19% of a company's total expenditures in Agland is absorbed by logistic costs, while in peer regions this figure is below 10%. Okay, so logistics is expensive in Agland, and Agland is suffering. Okay, what do we got here? Read the report. Low production in Agland. The report calls attention to the alarming low level of productive growth in the region of Agland, where there are also high rates of food insecurity, malnutrition, and rural poverty in inner parts of the region. And in Lochavan, the latest marine traffic report shows that the port of Lochavan is no longer the busiest of the Maricopa continent, falling behind to the third position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Lochavan still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. The port of Lochavan is the largest port of Swordland and holds enormous importance for the economy, particularly as the main distribution center linking the capital and inner parts of Swordland to the rest of the world. This major port city will hopefully keep supporting a possible economic upturn in the entire country if investment projects succeed. Alright, and then we have this exclamation mark here. Wait, no, we have... What are these? Congratulations from Prime Minister Van Horten. Prime Minister Van Horten congratulated us on our election and praised our party's stance on just and transparent elections. He signaled his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners, as opposed to earlier trade deals which he believed gave Swordland unfair advantages. Okay. What's this? ATO advocates for global human rights amid tensions. In response to growing global tension, the Arcasian Treaty Organization, an intergovernmental military and economic alliance of 14 countries, led primarily by Arcadia, has issued an expansive report examining the state of human rights worldwide amid intensifying nuclear developments and efforts to counteract the expanding influence of the Contanin Security Pact. The ATO's commitment to championing human rights remains unwavering. The report meticulously identifies regions worldwide where human rights are most endangered, shedding lights on areas of concern in multiple continents, including Eastern Maricopa, Western Rica, and Southern Contana. Proposed strategies underline the need for actionable, collaborative efforts to address these crises, championing an internal focus on basic human rights and freedom. As the specter of potential tensions and proxy wars loom, the report calls for nations to remember that the fight for universal respect for human dignity transcends political and ideological division. And this is the Democratic Republic of Volksland. Congratulations from Chancellor Hegel. Chancellor Hegel sent his congratulations on your great victory and wished for close cooperation between our countries in the future. Hegel signaled concessions from Volksland in case of a promising trade deal. He also congratulated the Swedish democracy for the successful election and warned us about the threat of Arcasia's growing influence poses for Eastern Maricopa. So, This guy doesn't like... this country is warning us about the West. But they wouldn't mind trading with us. Alright, so I think we... No, there's more here. Lesbia? Congratulations from Prime Minister Alvarez. Prime Minister Alvarez congratulated you for the results and spoke about his hopes to have a beneficial partnership deal in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Swordish people and warned us about the threats of the encroaching Malanovic influence on the United Cortana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent of Mercopa. Alright, so Lesbia here seems to be more aligned with the West. And then Old Wayland here. I almost have an idea what they're going to say. Congratulations from President Smolak. President Smolak sent his congratulations on the election victory and wished for a cooperative future between Welland and Swordsland, signaling a desire to normalize the diplomatic situation between the two countries. Okay. So that's the country. When I was a soldier in the military, I had to turn the people fleeing Wayland back into Wayland. So this is the border I was guarding. Or no, this is the border I was guarding. That's Lesbia. So yeah, I made them go back into Wayland. They didn't like that. And now read the report. Logistical issues. In a recent update from Wholesword, the mayor expressed growing concerns about escalating traffic congestion linking the city's burgeoning population and rapid urban expansion. A logistics report pinpointed the significant increase in traffic volume and subsequent slowing of transportation routes as the capital's most pressing issue. The mayor stressed that the lack of comprehensively designed large-scale land-based logistical hub serving as a converging point for all transporters is exacerbating the issue faced by domestic transporters. Given Wholesword's status as a sprawling metropolis, the current situation where transporters have established separate centers across 10 different districts is scattered and inefficient. Alright, I think we've seen all of the reports now. So briefing on the current political situation, briefing on the current economic. So we'll start with politics. Peter Vectorn arrived a couple of minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back his smile. This is our vice president and best friend. We did it, Anton. We won. Finally, all those years, with our noses to the grindstone, paid off. Peter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual rakish charm, but today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Enjoying the new secretary I picked out for you? Thought you'd appreciate her gorgeous set of talents. It's a shame the rest of your staffs aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured to the slight paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we would be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. Alright, give me a second. My throat's getting a little dry. All this reading. Alright, let's celebrate then. I got my hands on something special for us. An heirloom maroon 30-year-old We will celebrate at the inaugural ball. Just hang in there until the evening. This is not the time to celebrate, Peter. We have work to do. Alright, I don't want to be that guy. Though I am that guy. But there is a right time to celebrate. And if there's going to be a ball tonight, we should probably wait till then. We will celebrate at the inaugural ball. Just hang in there until evening. Looking forward to it. Evelyn hopes to congratulate you in person there. Good to know. It's been some time since the last time I saw her. I'm sure the kids would love to see their Uncle Peter for the first time as the vice president. We'll see each other at the ball then. Yeah, I'm sure the kids would love to see their Uncle Peter. That's great to hear. It's crazy how fast the two have grown up. You're a good father. Peter had a wistful look in his eye. He and Evelyn had never been able to have kids of their own. During our campaign, the opposition had floated the rumor that he'd fathered illegitimate children during his wilder years, but it had never been substantiated. The door swung open and Lucien Galad, my chief strategist, walked in. He was a compact man with sharp, bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick and graceful movements. Yeah, okay. Lucien Galad, gentlemen. The tall case clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you're exactly on time. Hello, Peter. Lucien then turned towards me. He very slightly bowed his head. Let's not waste any time, Lucien. Proceed with the overview. As you wish, sir. Lucien spoke in soft, clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. Let's start by evaluating our current situation. The majority of the Swordish people demand change. They are more concerned about the economy than the Constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. Why do you think radicals like Bernard Circus are becoming more popular? Everyone's expecting us to bring the change. The last government did not. Franz Richter, leader of the Reformists, believes that true change can only be accomplished by transferring some of our power to the Assembly. I will move into the details of their demands shortly. We need to listen to the people if we want to serve this country. That's exactly what we campaign for, a true change that will move the country forward. We will need many allies against the old guard in the government. Mr. Richter managed to persuade many members of the Assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the Assembly, especially if they unite under Franz Richter. The USP reformists aren't wrong to agree that we need change, but we should be in charge. Mr. Richter could be a potential ally in our goal to maintain a majority in the Assembly. Who is Richter again? People's Freedom and Justice Party. I think these are the communists. Our party must fall in line with our position. We can't have a strong divide.
True. If our party fractures, it's the opposition that will benefit. The reformist demands are clear. They want to limit the president's veto powers, ensure that the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the court's rights to vote on constitutional amendments. We must listen to their demands, otherwise we are no different than the previous administration. I agree. We can't ignore the winds of change after all. The old guard will do its best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which will be tough to break. The court also has the final say over constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we cannot even change it. We'll need a comprehensive bill to balance the power structure more fairly. We must break the power of the Supreme Court one way or another. I'd rather not go against them. The risks are too high. We'll need a comprehensive bill to balance the power structure more fairly. I agree. The old guard won't like this, though. A comprehensive reform that would make the reformists happy would mean maintaining a balance between all the branches of government, which means removing your absolute veto as well. The reformists demand that all loopholes in the Constitution are closed. Well, it looks like we have many challenges ahead. We can figure it out. Our party will hold 130 of 250 seats in the Assembly. We've got the power. However, to reform the Constitution, we must receive a 2/3 majority, the Grand National Assembly, which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court, which equals 6 votes. After we have settled on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party figures. Our first goal must be to get the 150 signatures needed to start the process. Following the green light from the USP, we will reach out to the other party leaders to see if they would back our draft. The last step is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with a reform committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. We will write a more democratic constitution with reformists. The new constitution should give the president wide-ranging powers to lead Sortland in the future. We could work with the old guard to protect our existing extensive powers. So, one thing about having played this game several times before is the fact that you kind of know how the story goes, which almost kind of wants to push you to make some choices you might not make if you didn't already have pre-existing knowledge. We'll run a more democratic constitution with the reformists. That's what we've been preparing for internally. Don't forget the promise is what got us elected. The key thing here will be strengthening the power of the Assembly, which we already lead with a majority. Peter nodded in agreement. Yes, the division of power needs to be rebalanced for a better Sortland. According to the initial draft we made with the reformists, there are 2 changes to the Constitution that are not open for their discussion. First, the Supreme Court will no longer vote on constitutional amendments. And second, the President's absolute veto will be taken away. This can be replaced with a limited veto system by fixing the current loopholes. There's no 50-50 option. So I'm fine with a limited veto. However, I kind of want to not have to fight the Supreme Court. Alright, I have no problems with these clauses. Let's work with reformists. Yes, sir. Lucia nodded. We will form a reform committee together with all parties and start reaching out to all the stakeholders in the Assembly and the Court for a new constitution. By later in the year, we should have an idea of the reform contents and what the other party wants. Another important point, we must be aware of the Lothar Group. The oligarchs convene under this organization to influence economic policies. Conrath led it for a long time before falling ill. The new leader is Mr. Walter Tusk. According to reports, some members of the National Business Council are in their pockets. Tusk and the group will surely want to bribe us in exchange for special economic protections. I will enter a dialogue with them. Eventually, we need to be diplomatic. Wise approach. It's good to understand and see if we can reach a middle ground. Lucian looked at Peter. As far as I know, Marcel Caranti has some strong ties to this group. His influence could definitely be an asset for us, but I'm sure he'll want something in return. Group's influence is an important force, one that we should use to our administration's advantage. That group is dependent on our economic policies. They can't move a finger without us. Tusk is heading the group. We should make sure he's on our side. The group's influence is an important force, one that we should use to our administration's advantage. If we can get them to side with us, it all depends on what benefits we can offer and what the leaders want. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players to survive our term. I need to underline the seriousness of the situation. The military and general staff are a powerful element in the state, as history tells us, a dangerous one too. We do have some room to make structural changes by reducing their budget, for example, but it's quite limited. With the Romsburg threat on the horizon, we can't reduce our defense capabilities and anger our general staff. I don't want to die in prison like Arthur S. Whiskey did. I want to receive the advice of the military before making up my mind. With the Romsburg threat on the horizon, we can't reduce our defense capabilities and anger our general staff. The military has been nothing but a burden on our society. We should do something drastic like cutting their funding. Honestly, that's the one. That is possible, but we can be sure that there will be a strong negative reaction if we push the military too far. It could cause real trouble. Defense Minister Iosif Lancia, the same major who we used to work for when we had to do that border incident, is now our defense minister. Is more loyal to us compared to General Kruger, a fact that's obviously can change with our actions. Either way, I see a potential rift between the two since they are clearly of different minds. If we act strongly against the military, both of those guys will unite against us. I agree with Lucian, we need to tread carefully here. Lucian looked at his watch. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes our political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about media strategy. Talk to you soon, sir. I will keep in touch. See you both at the next meeting. Lucian and Peter bid their farewells and left. A mysterious amount of smoke was rising far away on the horizon. Huh, we have new things that have popped up here. Alright, this is probably a good spot to wrap up this particular episode, as I think it's getting a little bit long. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Software. This is my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If so, please smash that like button, consider subscribing, and until the next time, all, peace.